The Wild West town lay wrapped in a blanket of white, the snow shimmering under the faint light of the moon. It was the harsh winter of the 1800s, and every building seemed to huddle together against the biting cold. Smoke curled from chimneys, but the streets were mostly silent, save for the crunch of footsteps on ice and the occasional howl of the wind. In the town square, a wooden bench stood empty except for one fragile figure, a young woman named Mei Ling. She was fast asleep, her bare feet resting on the cold wood. Her old gray prairie dress shivered like leaves in the breeze, a stark contrast to the bright snow surrounding her. Next to her was a small wooden sign that read, "No One's Wife," a cruel reminder of her forsaken state and the loneliness that enveloped her. As the town remained quiet, a shadow approached. Hank, a mountain man known for his intimidating size and wild mane of long hair and beard, emerged from the woods. His muscles flexed under his thick clothing as he trudged through the snow, each step powerful yet cautious. He came to a stop at Mei Ling's side, his heart stirred by the sight of her shivering form. "What are you doing out here, little one?" he murmured softly, kneeling beside her. As she stirred awake and blinked against the chill air, he added gently, "You shouldn't be alone in this cold. You're mine now." Mei Ling stirred slightly as the cold wind brushed against her cheeks, a shiver running through her body. Her bare feet were numb on the rough wooden bench where she lay, and her old gray prairie dress, thin and worn, offered little protection against the biting winter chill. The fabric fluttered softly as snowflakes fell around her, clinging to her hair and shoulders like delicate frost. Though she looked fragile, there was a strength in her features. Her almond-shaped eyes held stories of resilience, hinting at a past filled with hardship. Her long dark hair spilled over the bench like a curtain, framing her face in a way that made her seem both ethereal and lost. The sign beside her, "No One's Wife," weighed heavily on her heart, a painful reminder of her isolation in this unforgiving town. As Hank knelt down next to her, he couldn't help but admire her beauty despite her vulnerable state. "You don't have to be alone anymore," he whispered, his voice deep and reassuring. He reached out gently, brushing some snow from her hair. Mei Ling's eyes fluttered open at his touch, revealing confusion mixed with an unexpected spark of warmth. Who are you?" she asked hesitantly, sensing strength in his presence. "Hank," he replied simply, unable to hide the protective instinct rising within him. "And you're safe with me now." He extended his hand toward her, inviting her into the warmth of his world in the mountains. As Hank knelt beside Mei Ling, his gaze fell onto the small wooden sign resting next to her. Its crude letters spelled out, "No One's Wife," creating a heavy weight in the air between them. The sign, worn and weathered, seemed to echo Mei Ling's lonely predicament, a haunting reminder of her abandonment and the stark reality of her situation. Mei Ling felt the warmth of Hank's presence beside her, yet the sign served as a bitter contrast. It articulated her heart's sorrow, wrapping her in an atmosphere of sympathy and despair. She thought about how she had arrived at this point, alone, vulnerable, and misjudged. How could anyone leave her like this? Her eyes flickered to the sign again, drawing tears that threatened to spill over. Hank noticed her gaze and felt a surge of protectiveness. He leaned closer and spoke softly. "That sign doesn't define you, Mei Ling." His voice was deep yet gentle. "You are worth so much more than those words." Tears shimmered in her eyes as she met his gaze. Was it possible for someone like him to see beyond what others had done to her? As he brushed away the snow from her hair, she felt a flicker of hope amid the bitterness that surrounded her. "Together," he said with resolve, "we can change what that sign means." Mei Ling sensed a bond starting to form, a gentle thread weaving hope into their cold world. As Hank knelt beside Mei Ling, he felt an undeniable pull towards her. The chill of the winter air seemed to fade as he focused on her fragile form, wrapped in that old gray prairie dress. Hank was a massive figure, his broad shoulders and muscular build evident even beneath his thick clothes. His long hair cascaded down his back, and a bushy beard framed his strong jawline, giving him an imposing yet rugged charm. Living in the mountains had shaped him into a protector, someone who could survive in the wilds, but also care for those in need. As he looked at Mei Ling, shivering and alone on the bench, his heart stirred with empathy. He couldn't understand how anyone could leave such a beautiful soul abandoned in the cold. Drawing closer, he took in every detail of her delicate hands and downcast eyes filled with sorrow. A surge of warmth rushed through him as he imagined bringing her to the safety of his cabin, where they could escape the freezing temperatures together. "Hey there," he said gently, hoping to reassure her further. "You don't have to fear anything anymore." His voice was deep and soothing, contrasting with the biting wind that swirled around them. Mei Ling looked up at him with hesitant hope dancing in her eyes. In that moment, she sensed something different about this mountain man, an unspoken promise of protection and warmth that pulled her out of her despair. Hank realized then that he wanted to be more than just a stranger. He wanted to be her shelter from the storm. As Hank knelt beside Mei Ling, a whirlwind of emotions churned within him. He couldn't shake the sense of curiosity that drew him closer, mingling with his protective instincts. The sight of her shivering and alone brought back memories of his own struggles in the unforgiving wilderness. He remembered nights spent in solitude, but never had he encountered someone so delicate, so in need of comfort. His heart beat faster as he thought about how desperately she needed help. Should he pull her from the freezing bench and take her to his cabin in the mountains? Could he truly take on the responsibility of caring for her? The weight of those questions pressed heavily on his mind. He was used to surviving alone, a rugged mountain man who braved the elements with little thought for companionship. But this felt different. Hank's powerful instincts urged him to act, yet a voice inside whispered uncertainty. What if she didn't want his help? What if she was afraid of him, this stranger with long hair and a bushy beard? Guilt surged through him as he recalled the sign next to her, "No one's wife." It reminded him of her painful isolation, and all he wanted to do was replace that desolation with warmth and belonging. "Please," he spoke quietly, leaning closer to her, "let me help you." In that moment, he resolved to show Mei Ling kindness and protection. He felt compelled not just to save her from the cold, but to offer something more, a chance for both of them to find solace together amidst their lonely worlds. Gently, Hank leaned closer to Mei Ling, his deep voice breaking through the chill that surrounded her. "Hey there," he said softly. "You shouldn't be out here alone." He could see her eyes fluttering open, revealing a mix of confusion and vulnerability. The coldness of the world around them faded into the background as he focused solely on her. Mei Ling blinked against the brightness of the snow, trying to make sense of the large figure before her. His rugged features were softened by concern, and she felt warmth radiating from him, even in the icy air. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, her voice trembling. "I'm Hank," he replied, his expression earnest. "I found you asleep here, and I can't just leave you like this." With a gentle motion, he brushed some snowflakes from her hair, an action that surprised her and filled her with a sense of comfort she hadn't known in a long time. Then, with a confidence that surprised even him, Hank added, "You're mine now." The words hung between them, both bold and tender. For Mei Ling, those 4 simple words sparked something deep within, a connection that felt both unexpected and comforting. All at once, she realized that she didn't want to be alone anymore. The warmth from Hank's presence enveloped her, igniting a flicker of hope in her heart. In that moment, surrounded by snow and uncertainty, they began to forge a bond that neither had anticipated, but both desperately needed. Mei Ling's heart raced at Hank's unexpected words. "You're mine now." An overwhelming mix of fear and warmth surged through her. His imposing figure loomed over her, muscles defined beneath his rugged clothes, and she couldn't help but feel intimidated by him. Yet, as their eyes locked, something within her began to shift. There was a gentleness in his gaze that offered comfort, as if he understood her pain without needing to ask. "What do you mean?" she stammered, unsure whether to feel scared or safe. The world around her felt cold and harsh, but Hank's presence ignited a flicker of warmth in her chest. She had never been so close to someone like him, strong and wild, yet he radiated a protective aura that drew her in. Hank sensed her hesitance and softened his expression. "I mean, you don't have to face this alone anymore," he explained gently, kneeling closer to her. "I'll keep you safe." Despite her initial fright, Mei Ling found herself wanting to believe him. The warmth he radiated was unlike anything she had felt before. It wrapped around her like a comforting blanket against the winter chill. She gazed at him, the mountain man with long hair and a bushy beard, and something deep inside whispered that he might be the shelter she so desperately needed. As they sat together amidst the falling snow, Mei Ling grappled with her emotions. Could she trust this stranger? Yet the prospect of companionship ignited hope within her, stirring a longing for connection that had long been buried beneath layers of sorrow. With a reassuring smile, Hank extended his hand to Mei Ling, inviting her to follow him. "Come on, I'll take you to my cabin," he said softly, leading her away from the wooden bench and into the snowy landscape. The world around them was a winter wonderland, with tall pines dusted in white and the air crisp and fresh. As they walked together, Hank couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. "Living alone in the mountains has its challenges," he explained, glancing back at her excited eyes. "But it's also beautiful. There's peace up there, away from the noise of the town." He pointed toward the distant peaks that loomed majestically against the sky. "I hunt and gather what I need, and I've built a little home where I stay warm by the fire." Mei Ling listened intently, her fear slowly melting away like the snowflakes that fell around them. "You built it yourself?" she asked, intrigued by his strength and independence. "Every log," he replied with pride. "It's cozy inside and filled with all the things I need, wood for warmth, food to eat, and plenty of space to breathe." He paused, looking at her with sincerity. "You'll be safe there, Mei Ling. No one will hurt you again." As they trudged through the snow, he felt a sense of warmth growing between them, a connection in shared solitude, and for the first time in a long while, Hank hoped that perhaps they could both find solace in each other's company. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the biting cold outside. Hank set about stoking the fire, the flames dancing and crackling as they filled the room with a golden glow. Mei Ling watched, her heart swelling with gratitude for the cozy space that felt like a sanctuary from the harsh world she had just escaped. Once the fire roared to life, Hank motioned for Mei Ling to sit at the small wooden table. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, pulling out a simple wooden bowl filled with stew. "I've got some food if you're hungry." Mei Ling nodded, her stomach growling at the thought of nourishment. As they ate, she felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. "Thank you for bringing me here," she began tentatively. "I didn't know what would happen out there." Hank looked up, his expression softening. "I couldn't just leave you," he replied earnestly. "No one deserves to be alone in that kind of cold." Encouraged by his kindness, Mei Ling felt herself opening up. "I came to this town seeking a new life," she shared, her voice trembling slightly as she recounted her journey. "But I ended up feeling lost and unwanted." Hank listened intently, his heart aching for her struggles. "You're not unwanted here," he said gently. "You have a place with me now." Their eyes met, and in that moment, a deeper connection formed between them, a bond forged from shared pain and understanding. Mei Ling realized that beneath Hank's rugged exterior lay a compassionate heart ready to embrace her. As they exchanged stories, hope began to blossom within both of them. hinting at the promise of healing and companionship. As the days passed in the cozy cabin, Hank and Mei Ling settled into a comforting routine. They shared meals by the crackling fire, the warmth wrapping around them like a protective cocoon against the winter chill outside. Hank would often prepare hearty stews, and they would laugh together over little things, like the way snowflakes landed on their noses, or how he sometimes fumbled with cooking utensils. One afternoon, as they sat at the table finishing their meal, Hank leaned back and said, "You know, living up here has its benefits. You can hear the sound of the wind whispering through the trees." He gestured toward the window where pine boughs swayed gently outside. "And the stars? They shine brighter than anywhere else." Mei Ling smiled, her heart feeling lighter with every passing moment. "I've never seen so many stars," she replied excitedly. "In the town, it's hard to even find one." "Come on," Hank said, standing up and extending his hand to her. "Let's go outside." They stepped out into the crisp night air, and as they looked up together, Mei Ling gasped at the sight of countless stars twinkling against the dark sky. "It's beautiful," she breathed. Hank chuckled softly. "Just like you." His voice was sincere, and it sent a warm flutter through Mei Ling's heart. In that moment of shared wonder, Mei Ling realized how much she treasured these simple moments with him, his warmth, his laughter, and his kindness. As they stood side by side under the vast sky, an undeniable bond blossomed between them, a connection forged in trust and companionship that began to fill both their hearts with hope for a brighter future together. As winter nights settled over the mountains, Mei Ling and Hank found solace in each other's company. The cabin grew cozy with the warm glow of the fire, and they began to develop a sweet rhythm that eased their initial fears. Each evening, after sharing a meal, they would sit close together on a wide plank of wood beside the fire, wrapped in blankets against the cold, their laughter ringing out like music. One frigid night, as they gazed into the dancing flames, Mei Ling noticed the way Hank's eyes sparkled with warmth and tenderness. "You know," she said softly, "I never thought I could feel this safe again." Hank turned to her, his expression serious yet compassionate. "You deserve to feel safe and cared for," he replied, reaching for her hand. The touch was soft but filled with strength, and Mei Ling felt a flutter in her heart. In return, Mei Ling squeezed his hand gently. "I've been so lonely for so long," she confessed, looking into his eyes. "It's hard to believe I can rely on someone like you." "Trust me," Hank replied with a smile. "I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, a shared understanding passed between them. The weight of their pasts began to dissolve within the warmth of their growing partnership. With each story they shared about their lives, trust blossomed like spring flowers amid winter's chill. They found comfort in their vulnerabilities and support in each other's strengths, slowly weaving an unbreakable bond amidst the snowy landscape that surrounded them. A budding romance sparked between them as they leaned into one another, ready to embrace the future together. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Mei Ling and Hank deepened, woven together by shared laughter and whispered secrets. One evening, as they sat together on the cabin's worn bench, wrapped in a blanket, Mei Ling turned to Hank, her eyes shining with gratitude and emotion. "I can't thank you enough for saving me from the cold," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Hank looked at her with sincerity, his expression earnest. "You don't have to thank me. It's what anyone would do," he replied, though he felt a swell of pride for being someone she could rely on. "But you've given me so much more than just shelter," Mei Ling continued, her heart swelling with warmth. "You've given me hope again." She paused, searching his eyes for understanding. "For a long time I felt lost and alone, but here, with you, I finally feel like I belong somewhere." Hank's heart swelled at her words. He took her hand in his, holding it firmly, yet gently. "You'll always have a place here with me," he promised. "I'll be by your side, no matter what." In that moment, their surroundings fell away as they shared an unspoken promise of companionship. The flickering firelight danced in their eyes, reflecting the warmth of the connection they had forged. They leaned closer, hearts beating in sync as they embraced the future together, both knowing that they would face whatever challenges lay ahead as partners, united in hope and love.